Hi everyone, it's PK here. Hope you're doing really well. Today I have Dharmesh with me here, who recently completed the Property Investment Accelerator. And in this interview, we're going to be going into the psychology, the mindset, and the process of property investing and what Dharmesh learned from the Property Investment Accelerator. And, you know, it's not intended to be like a marketing thing, although yes, it is. It's really intended to give you value so you can learn from his experiences. And he's obviously very experienced as well, not only in now real estate, but before in the stock market, because he has a stock market background. So I know there's so many of you out there that'll be in that exact position. You've traded, you have ETFs, you have managed funds, you've been in the stock market, you want to diversify. Dharmesh will hopefully add value, putting you on the spot here, to you guys in this interview. So if you enjoy it, if you like it, if you love it, hit the share button, subscribe below, hit like, hit love, and comment below, and we can try to answer your questions. Let us know how it is. So Dharmesh, welcome. I'm really grateful that you took the time out of your Saturday to be with me.
Thank you, PK, for having me. It's a pleasure being with you.
No, it's a pleasure well, I'm very grateful to have you here. Yeah, so maybe we can just start off by, look, you obviously have a pretty sound experience in the stock market. You've done well. You've made you know, some wealth for yourself and your family in that method, which I think all of us try to do as well. Just tell me about why you chose to look towards real estate. I think there was some marketing company that initially approached you, and just tell me about your experience before joining the Property Investment Accelerator.
Sure, PK. So just to give you a little bit of background, I've been investing in the stock market from 2006. It's been about 14 years now. And I moved to Australia about 7-8 years ago now as a migrant. And yeah, I got my property like 5 years ago for my family residence. And yeah, it's been a lucky ride for me here in Australia. So I've been doing pretty well. But then after I got my own property, after maybe a year or so, started looking into different options of investments in property as well, because there's so much of marketing around of how people make a lot of money in property as well. Just coming with a mindset of investments that I always had, that invest your money, I never thought about properties. But then when I see all these marketing gimmicks that happen in the world out there, so that attracted me towards understanding more about property as well, just being from a stock market background. So yeah, I've been speaking to a lot of people about property, and I had one of my clients who was also into property. Like, I am into digital marketing as a professional. So I had a client who was talking about who wanted to sell his properties, and especially home and land packages. So got involved more with this particular client and his finance team, and try to understand more about exactly how people are making money or how they're selling that value to their customers. And PK, I think a year or 2 years ago, I got in touch with you as well, because you do properties and have been having on and off conversations with you about it. So yeah, over the last year, I've been really looking more into properties. And then that's when I learned more about debt recycling, more about leverage, how do you make money using leverage, and also with debt recycling and tax efficiencies, which comes with properties. And yeah, so the reason why I enrolled in your course was because I was getting differing viewpoints from a lot of people in property industry, especially with marketing. Like, some people sell apartments for like just off the market, like off the plan apartments. And then there's home and land packages. And some people talk about existing houses, detached houses, and those sort of things. So there was different people talking about different options. And after talking to different people, I found I got connected with you because my frequency matched with you, and especially the vibe as well, because I wanted somebody with integrity and who can really provide value rather than marketing gimmicks, because I know how the marketing works coming from a digital marketing background. So yeah, that I just took a leap of faith in it and enrolled into the course. But yeah, I have to tell you that the biggest benefit that I've got from the course is the mindset change. It's a change of psychology with investments, especially with property and with leverage. Like, I was in a mindset that when I bought my family home, I need to pay off 50-70% of my debt first before looking into investments, just to be safe, just to be on the safer side. Just being a migrant, don't know how things work over here and all that. So yeah, I was not very sure. I was always on the sidelines. But the property is for me because it requires an investment of $300,000, $400,000, $500,000 when you invest properties. But with stock market, I can go with $10,000, $20,000. So it's because of the cost factor or the amount of money you're putting in that would make me a little nervous at times. So yeah, that was the biggest benefit that I got from your course was the mindset change, the psychology change, and looking at the data that you provide, especially all your Excel sheets and templates that you've prepared. Yeah. Those were just amazing. That helps me to really look at, because otherwise, right, before in the past, I was just using pen and paper and just trying to figure out how things work. But then when everything is templated, when you have your entire, because you put the entire plan on your templates, on your course materials, it was easy to punch in those numbers and see the overall picture. When we talk about 5 properties, 6 properties, what's the overall picture? What does it look like in 10, 15 years time? Rather than looking at a short term of 2, 3 years time. Yeah. So that really changed my perspective of, yes, property market, people can really make money. And a range of like Australian average has been about 6-7%. Yes, there'll be some boom times, there'll be some gloom times in between, but the history shows that on an average you make about 7%. Yeah. And yeah, if we just go by that, and yeah, pushing those numbers, stay patient for 10, 15 years. Yeah, I'm sure the financial independence will come into the picture.
And I think there was something really interesting that you said. You know, being a migrant, I'm second generation, so I can't completely relate, but I've obviously seen my parents come through that journey. Being a migrant less than 10 years in Australia, there's this natural tendency to not want to take too many risks. There's a natural tendency to be a little bit cautious. You're still in a foreign country, so to speak. You want cash in the bank. So tell me about, you know, did you have the fears that or concerns around the following things, and how did you overcome them? So for example, you know, I should pay off my principal place of residence fully before thinking about investment. What if I aren't able to get a tenant? You know, will I go bankrupt? You know, what if the property values the price of the property that I pay, what if that falls off a cliff in the first 2 or 3 years? You know, they seem like very extravagant or extreme concerns to have, but as migrants, they're all very rational things because you don't want to start all over again with nothing in the bank. So just tell me about that mindset shift.
Yes, that's when a migrant, right, especially, I'll tell about my story because I can't talk about others, but my story is like, when you come as a migrant, you start from scratch. You start from zero. Like when I came, I didn't even have a job, so I had to look out for a job. So it's like start everything from zero. Like you start by sharing your accommodation with somebody else. You don't even have a house to live and those sort of things. So, and when you make that money and get your first house, you're very careful with your money. Because that's the psychological change that happens when you move as a migrant. Because you work so hard and you save every little penny to get your first home over here, that you are very, very risk averse at that point of time. Like you don't want to take big risks in life because you want to settle your family here. If you have, like I have kids, so now I'm married as well. So I want to make sure that I have a good life for my kids compared to rather than losing all my money. So it become very risk averse as well. Right, so that's the mindset that we come with, or that's the mindset we grow over a period of time. But then when I bought my first principal place of residence, I was like, no, at least let me pay a 50% debt or 60% debt before looking into the second property, right? And also when we come here, we don't have too many contacts over here as well. Like we don't know whom to trust. Like in your course, what I really learned about is property investment is not just about you. It's about the team that you build around you, whether it's a financier, like a broker who helps you with your finances, and you have your accountant, you have the depreciation schedule, the conveyancer who helps you out as well. So it works as a team. It works as a small business, basically. Yeah. So that's a mindset change I had. Because previously for me, it was like accountant is basically, or a finance broker is basically a transactional thing. Right. You want a home loan, you do a transaction with them and that's it, bye-bye. You don't deal with them again. But that's what happened with my first principal place of residence. When I got it, I got my finance, and after that, I've never spoken to my broker again. So it was just a one transaction thing, and not as a team working on a small business of your investments. Yeah. So that was another mindset change that I learned, that no, it works as a team, and you need to have a really good team of people who understand what your strategy is, what your investment strategy is, so that they can work with you, whether it's a broker, whether it's an accountant, from a structure point of view, or how do you get more money, how do you increase your borrowing capacity, and those sort of things. And also pulling out equity. That was something which I learned as well. Like, there is equity in your house, make use of it rather than just sitting on the table, rather than not using it. So yes, I had equity in my property because when I bought my principal place of residence, it went up and I never used that equity. But now, after doing this course, I saw that I had so much equity sitting in my property and it was just not getting used. So money not being used is basically you're losing money.
Yeah.
Just keeping it on the table. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
So,
that's right.
So yeah, so from a migrant point of view, these are the things that we need to learn. It's all about education as well, because yeah, the country that you come from, some things work slightly differently as well compared to things that how they work in Australia. So it's getting educated in the early stages so that you're well prepared when you have equity, when you have some deposit with you to make the right decision and to buy the property. Just keep multiplying from there.
Yeah.
So yes, I think I was very hesitant that why should I really take it? Property is simple. Like, yeah, you just buy property, you get rent from it, and there could be a capital growth out of it.
Yeah.
But then there's so many other small things and small factors, not just from selecting property, but also from the broker point of view, from the accountant point of view, from the structure that you have to set up, that sort of a thing. Because otherwise, if I wouldn't have taken up this course, I would have bought this property on a joint name or on my name. Yeah. Right. But then I understood about family trust. I understood about different investment structures as well, which again, because I'm not from this country, I don't have my family here, because I know Australians who are born over here or who have second, third generation families over here, the majority of them have family trust over here. Yeah. But then people like me have no idea about family trust. So it really helped me educate what family trust is, and also how can I make benefit of using the family trust in terms of diverting the income. Right, depending, and also tax efficiencies.
Yeah.
And which also helps me with estate planning 30 years, 40 years down the line. It helps me with inheritance and will and all those sort of things. So yeah, your course really helped me to set the right foundation rather than after 10 years trying to think about how to make changes at that point of time, which would cost me more money. If I had to sell, which would have been a capital gains tax, and if I had to transfer that on to my kids or somebody else.
Yeah. And like, if we take a step back for a second, like, of course, there's all sorts of people who do the Property Investment Accelerator, nurses, bricklayers, teachers, some students. But I find that the people who especially gravitate towards this are people who are into data. Now, that doesn't mean that they can't be a nurse or they can't have been a carpenter. Plenty of electricians and everyone doing the course, but I find that people who really believe in data are the ones who come to do the course. But because I have so many people like IT, in IT, or software engineers or coders or data scientists, all these people doing the course as well, a lot of them think that, and this could have been you, I think it was you, a lot of them think that, hey, how hard can it be? You know, you find a property as close to the CBD as possible, try to get a good train line next to it. Hopefully there's an infrastructure project, make sure vacancy rates are low, make sure that it hasn't grown too much in the past, make sure it hasn't grown nothing at all in the past, and basically Bob's your uncle. You know, it's how hard can it be? And, you know, when they think about doing a course like this and spending a lot of money, because it's not cheap, you know, all their friends and family say, oh, look, you know, everyone buys property. Why you got to give so much money away to learn? And that kind of really holds people back from really educating themselves beyond just the surface level. So I think, you know, tell me about what your experience was. Were you in that boat as well, where you're thinking, how hard can it be? You know, there's so much free information online. Why can't I just do that for 6 months, compile it all together and take action? Like, why did you choose to spend thousands of dollars on a course?
All right, for me, right? Okay, again, I go back to my stock market story as well.
Yeah.
Because I started in 2006, and I was like, yeah, at that time, it was a boom time before the financial crisis happened, right? So everybody, whoever put money, because of the bull market, everybody was making money at that point of time, right? It's again at the property. Like when you go to barbecues or Christmas parties, and families talking about property, I've made so much, my property's gone up so much. People just jump into property. They just buy property in the backyard, or they buy property where their friends would have bought or their family members would have bought, right? But from my stock market experience, from the great financial crisis, what I learned was, no, everybody doesn't just make money every year. It all depends on the market cycles. It all depends on different factors about businesses and financial institutions and those sort of things. Again, same with the property, right? Before I took the course, I had only 7 or 8 factors in my mind, right? But then your course teaches 35 different factors, or 35 to 40 factors, right? Yeah. So I never even imagined those factors. And I don't think if I wouldn't have taken your course for the next 3 years, I would have come to know about those factors as well. Yeah. So, but then from my property market investments, what I learned is education is the most important thing. You got to understand before investing what you're doing. Right? If you do not understand, you might make money 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, but then when you're talking about big money like $1 million, $2 million, $3 million portfolios, that becomes risky. Right? If you do not have the education, if you do not have the understanding of investments.
Yeah.
Right. So you got to understand how a particular investment works. So that became a very key factor for me with my stock market experience. And that's where I educated myself at the stock market in the initial 2008 to 2010, 11 years. And that's when today I'm very confident with my investments. And it gives you confidence as well, because if you're talking about $100,000, $200,000, it's easy because even if you lose it, you're not really worried or concerned. You might not be concerned so much. But if you're talking about $1 million, $2 million, $3 million portfolio, yes, a crash in that or a losses in that is a big, big loss that you make. So education was always a key thing for me. And before I jumped into property investments, I wanted to make sure at least I get educated and understand the concepts of it, the basics of it, the factors involved with it before putting my money into it. And yeah, as you said, with financial independence, right? You need at least 5, 6 different properties at minimum, 4 to 6 properties to become financially independent. You don't become financially independent by one property. You don't get passive income with one property. So with 5, 6 properties, if you're talking about, that's in the range of like a portfolio of about close to $2 million. And that's where I thought, no, I need to really understand this. And that's where I was looking at different options of educations. And again, as I told you, my frequency match with you, I was looking for somebody who's really providing value and who is authentic about it as well. And that's the reason I enrolled in your course. And yeah, let's talk about the dollars, right? Yes, I thought initially it was really expensive. Okay, why should I spend so much?
Which you instead could have put towards a deposit. I mean, why spend that money? It's taking money away from your deposit.
That's right. So even if I would have made one mistake, I would have made more losses than how much I paid for the course, was my thing. Right? Today, right, we all know that when you go to study and you spend like $10,000, $20,000, $30,000 in a university and immediately you get a job out of it, for example, the return on investment is there on your education. Right? But in terms of investment, again, as I always believe that education is the most important. And yeah, with the right education, you could save thousands of dollars. Like in my case, things I learned was about leverage, tax efficiencies, the structure of your investments with your family trust and those areas, and how a team is very important. Even these lessons were worth more than what I paid for the course. Even without buying a property, I've already made money. In a long time, if I look at a 20-year period, right? If I've taken a wrong decision of buying the property on my name or joint name rather than family trust, in 20 years' time, I would have lost more money than paying for the course.
Yeah.
Right. So you don't think about immediate returns in 1 year's time. Think from a long-term perspective. If you look at 10, 15 years time frame, I have made more money already based on what I've learned, even without buying a property.
Yeah. Yeah. No, and I think it was actually really fun to have you as a student, as a client, because you're so data-led. Like you were asking me and questioning my assumptions. You had your own spreadsheet to the side. You were modeling the returns between stock investing and real estate to make sure that what I was saying was kind of really making sense to you. You weren't just blindly following me. And of course, I don't teach one cookie cutter strategy. Everyone's different, everyone's unique. But at the same time, you shouldn't just follow me blindly. I mean, you should still understand, because it's the knowledge and understanding that will make you money, not just memorizing an equation and following it. And I think that's really what people need to do. And you're a good example of that, doing your own spreadsheets and really making sure you understood this, you know.
That's right.
That is really important when you're spending, it's not $10,000 on a property, it's hundreds of thousands of dollars on a property. Or stock investing, you're not going to retire by investing $100,000 into the stock market. You know, it needs to be much more than that.
That's right.
Okay, yeah, so that makes a lot of sense. And I mean, what would you say to the people who, rightly so, are a little bit skeptical? You know, there's so many spruikers, so many people trying to sell you something in real estate these days in Australia. What would you say to people who are kind of on the fence thinking, look, you know, the Property Investment Accelerator seems to be good, PK's content seems to make sense, but do I really need this? You know, I'm pretty sure with a bit more education, I can just do it myself. People are on the fence. Maybe the husband is really wanting to do it, but the wife isn't quite buying it, or vice versa. What would you say to people like that? You know, truthfully, without sort of putting on a sales hat.
Right. So my only honest giveaway would be to the people would be just stay away from marketing gimmicks. Understand what you're doing rather than just getting attracted by different marketing gimmicks and the numbers that they throw up. And look at the fine print as well as those numbers and sit down with the person, whoever you go with your property investments, understand it in depth, ask questions, ask a lot of questions as well, right? Because if I would have gone just with my client who did tell me initially about debt recycling and those sort of things, I would have surely lost money there. Right?
I hope they're not watching this video later.
No, but then it's all about bringing out the truth.
Yeah.
Right? Yes, it's all about integrity and bringing out the truth as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's so many people out there. So, but one other thing I would like to tell, right? For me, because I understand stock markets and now I'm trying to learn about property, but there are a lot of people, at the end of the day, you need to have a good sound sleep when you do your investments as well. It should not be that you have a nervous sleep in the night. What if the stock market crashes or if it falls down by 5%, 10%? Or what happens to property if there's a bubble burst and there's a 20, 30% drop, right? Yeah. So if you educate yourself thoroughly, understand the history of any investment, whether it's stock market or whether it's property, you will make sure that you have sound sleep and you would understand what an investment is all about. So make sure you understand whatever you get into before making investments, big investments, or even in the journey. And I know, because I'll just example of my own friend groups, right? So in my friend group, there's only 1 or 2% people who are comfortable with stock market, but the rest are not comfortable with it because they think about GFC, they think about the volatility of the markets with the crashes, 5, 10, 20%. Like with COVID crash, the market went down by 35, 40%, right, depending on the country, right? So people are afraid that they're losing money, but you're just losing money on the paper. Again, I don't want to do my stock market course over here, but yes, if you understand how it all works, if you understand the history of it, and again, education plays a key role over here. So whichever investment vehicle you choose, whether it's stock market, whether it's property investments, make sure you understand it thoroughly so that you get sound sleep, you lead a happy life with your family and not worrying about small fluctuations in property values.
Yeah.
And yes, and you are achieving your goal of financial independence.
Yeah. No, so, well said. I think the big theme from what you're saying is understand what you're doing. Understand what you're doing. If you're just going to realestate.com.au or if you're just going to Domain, that's basically like an online casino, right? You can buy a property, it might be positive cash flow, but is it going to get you the outcome that you want? Is it going to be the right purchase? You need to understand that. And if you can learn that yourself, then I'd be the first one to say, learn it yourself. But if you can't learn it yourself, because there's so many layers and each layer can either make you hundreds of thousands or can take away hundreds of thousands. If you can't learn those layers, then don't just go to that casino and buy a property. Really, you know, you need to almost kind of, how do you say that? Pass the ball back like in soccer before passing it forward. So sometimes you need to invest in your own understanding and education so that you can be more confident that you are actually making the right decisions so that you are more confident that you're buying a positive cash flow, high growth property, and so that you are more confident you're actually developing a passive income. Like, I think that analogy just came to me now, but realestate.com.au is a casino. You need to make sure you know what you're doing.
It's again, it all comes down to marketing. Like,
yeah,
you pay more dollars for marketing, you get top properties up there, and it's all about content writing as well. How do you sell it to the client? 100%. And one other thing, PK, what I want to really tell the audience is in terms of education, right? There's two ways of learning it. One is through your own mistakes, through your own journey, and one is learning through a person who's already done it in the past. Right? There's two ways of doing it, and both the ways are right ways. I'm not saying one is right and one is wrong, but then we talk about investments and leverage about it, and same way education is a leverage, right? So if, for example, if I want to become an entrepreneur, if I want to run a business, I can go to an entrepreneur course at university and study under a professor who's never run a business, who just looks at theory knowledge. Or I can go to a mentor who's run businesses in the past, who's learned from real life mistakes, who knows how things work, and learn from him. And through my experience of running a business as well, learning from a mentor is a much faster way of learning than theory knowledge. The same way again with investments. You do have mentors, and the mentors like you who are happy to help out people as well, right? So either you learn it by yourself by making mistakes, or you buy books and study about it, or read a lot of content over the internet, or you take a structured course, which will educate you or give you 80% of the right, 80 to 90% of the right knowledge that you require, and then learn another 10, 20% on the side by yourself.
Yeah.
That sort of a thing as well, right? So having a mentor who's already done a thing, like who's preaching what he's already done it, is very important. Than from somebody who is just preaching and not doing it practically.
Yeah.
That's another most important factor. Yeah. Find a mentor who's done it, who's living by it, and and so that you can add a lot of value. Do your due diligence, yes.
Yeah.
When deciding on who your mentor is, who your coach is going to be, or what course you tie up with. Yeah. Okay. And again, that's from my personal experiences. I have to tell that.
Yeah, and no, and I just want everyone to know that Dharmesh isn't just like another person. He's actually very successful in the stock market. He's very successful in business. Like he said, he's an immigrant, and he's actually a very hardworking family man. So in one sense, he's ordinary, just like the rest of us. We're just, family men or family women or single, whatever the case may be. But he's actually very successful in the endeavors that he embarks upon, whether it's the stock market, whether it's now real estate or business. So there's a lot of gold and some wise words coming from him. And I think the main thing that I learned was do your due diligence and understand what you do. You don't have to pay for it. You don't have to pay for my course. If you can do it yourself, do it yourself. But make sure you really understand not just the top layer, but all 10 layers before you take any action. That's the most important thing. Thank you so much, Dharmesh, for coming on a Saturday morning. I really appreciate it. And any last words?
No, PK, thank you so much. I would like to, thank you, first of all, for helping me out with the property markets, because in less than 6 months, I have learned so much about property, which I had not learned for the last 8 years, because I was just at a surface level. So thank you for that. And I'm sure all your clients are very happy with you as well. And your future clients will also be happy with you because of your integrity, because of your values and what you want for your clients. Honestly, with your clients, So thank you, PK, from the bottom of my heart.
Thank you very much. And guys, hopefully got a lot of value from this interview with Dharmesh. If you did, please let me know by leaving a comment below, sharing, subscribing, liking or loving this. And if you have any questions about Dharmesh's journey or anything about the Property Investment Accelerator or property in general, not even about my course, but any fears, concerns, questions, apprehensions about real estate, just ask them right below and I'd be more than happy to help you. So have a great day, guys, and have a great day, Dharmesh.
Thank you, PK. See ya.
Okay, bye.